Sound rolling.
FONZi interview. Action.
So, are you gonna be in the interview and that, or you can just be sitting there? I said that.
Alright, so what's your understanding of the word Uncle Tom?
My understanding of the word Uncle Tom, basically, it's one of those words generally used, for obviously, black people, like Bunty is another word, bounty, sell out, coconut, like a derogatory word based on somebody who doesn't necessarily represent who they are, but they're all for somebody else. So without getting too technical, but yeah.
So do you believe that you ever came into contact with an Uncle Tom or a class of Uncle Tom? That could be in the workplace, at school, growing up, college. And why do you think they behave like that?
I'd say 100%. I think when dealing with, when it comes to black people, there's so many different things that you can probably attribute it to. Some people may say it's from the effects of slavery. Some may say it's in the sense of people not really having an understanding of their own culture or identity. So when they're in certain environments, they feel the need that they have to act a certain way or fit into a certain kind of group or square or box, you know what I mean? So in terms of my own kind of what run-ins I may have had with Uncle Tom, one thing I'll say is, you get some black people now, let's say for instance, you could come from a suburban area, so you haven't been brought up in an urban area, so you may not speak a certain way, you may not necessarily act a certain way. Now some people may look at them and say, they're an Uncle Tom or they're a sellout or they're this, they're that, because they don't appear to be streetwise or urban or talking bonnets and stuff like that. Now I'd say that definitely isn't the case, because you can come across people like that and they're a lot more culturally in tune than others who are from an inner city area or who are from around more black people and stuff. What I'd say is the mentality that a lot of people carry, my personal experience is when I'd say the mentality of people not willing to support other black people. So if we was to go to like slavery days and you hear about the like the house niggas as they used to call them, and they'll be the ones that are in the house and they'll be kissing up to master and all that. That's the kind of mentality what we're dealing with black people out here today on different levels. Like me myself, I'm in the music business, entertainment business. I do quite a fair bit, and a lot of the things that I've helped launch and that I support and the things that I build for myself and the community and the youngsters, I don't necessarily see much support from other black people, but those other black people will be damn prone to support white people who are doing the same thing. Now I think that's Uncle Tom behavior, like my personal opinion. So
okay, so in recent years you've had like a lot of issues with especially in the UK with black celebrities that have, once they reached a certain status, then you could say they stray from black culture. Besides actually their skin being black, you wouldn't know they was black at all. Now as an artist yourself, why do you think that is, and is it something they have to do, and is it something or is it something they don't need to do?
I'd say within the UK, there's a few places that you're gonna go and find a strong cultural or ethnic mix. Now, like in the cities like Birmingham, London, a few other places you will go, and there will be, a high number of different ethnic groups, black people, so on. A lot of other places you go, and the higher you get within the business, and when you stretch out to other kind of areas, suburban areas and stuff, there's a limitation on the amounts of black people that you then do see. So what I'd say you're dealing with is when some of these people reach a certain level and the type of people they're mixing around with, they adopt certain characteristics and principles to fit in around them, and they kind of forget about other things, for good or bad. That's something that needs to be explored, and at the same time, I'd say there's a quote from Farrakhan, and he was speaking about, similar with a lot of the black celebrities in America, and to take the quote, the saying, which is the proverbial crabs in a bucket. So which is often very much used to describe people that are coming from like the ghetto areas, impoverished areas, and so on. So you take crabs in a bucket, and you got one trying to make it out, and the rest of them trying to pull them back down. So what we're kind of dealing with now, is people that have been taken out of that bucket, so to speak, but they've been taken out by somebody higher, somebody who actually owns the bucket, and that's generally, the older, different class, white male. They've taken them out. So you get these people who are taken out, that's who they're taken out by, that's who they feel levels of comfort being around, and that's who they don't want to cross them to kind of feel like they got to put them back in the bucket, Would I say you have to be like that? I'd say no. I'd say you can be independent, you can do your own thing, link with whoever you want to link with, naturally, black, white, it doesn't really matter. But I'd say, it's about maintaining a level of who you are, knowing where you come from, knowledge yourself, being totally important. I think that gets stripped away by a lot of people in the business, on their journey for success or fame or whatever you want to call it, because, the higher they get, the more of a certain type of people they're around, and the more expectation there is of them to act a certain way. So, they got a choice, but, some of them are going to choose it.
So, what's your opinion on the, it's almost a trend, it's almost the norm for a black footballer to date outside of the race? So what we then tend to see is that any successful black people don't mate with other black women. So what then tends to happen is it becomes normal in that world for a successful black footballer not to be with a black woman, whether it be with whatever other color. Why do you believe that something like this hasn't been addressed? And why do you think something like this is? Because, as you know, if you was to flip the coin and it was 9 out of 10 white footballers are going out with black girls, the white man would probably look and say, what's going on here? So what's your take on that?
Well, to kind of quote somebody else who I quite follow, to quote Lord Jamar, he used the euphemism quite recently when speaking about the NBA in America and basketball, and saying, to some degree, black people are guests in the NBA. So we'll go from that and we'll go to the football associations and stuff out here. I don't really follow football that much as such, but the black players are very much so guests within the football teams and stuff that they play for. Them being guests, it's like go to somebody's house for dinner, and you're a guest, and to some degree you may eat whatever they put on the table and so on and so forth. So them kind of being guests in that environment, the people that they're mixing around, there's an expectation for them to kind of be the same. So they're gonna be around them, they're gonna adopt the same kind of principles. Their values may be shared personally and professionally. I'd also say, just within the football scene, there's a certain kind of parallel that comes with it. So the type of females that are not, probably prone to be attracted or attractive to footballers are a certain type of female. So, they're gonna fit in with that as well, you know what I mean? So I think that's why a lot of them you will find out do. I think it can give a negative impact to like young black females, and that definitely it can, because at the end of the day, what a lot of them will be seeing is when black males reach a certain level of prosperity or notoriety or fame or success in some degree, they don't actually continue that journey with a black woman. So I think that can be quite disparaging to some of the black females. I think it's something that should be spoken about and should be explored. Whether people will, it's a total different thing. I'd also like to throw in the mix, not just to be one-sided, but you'll probably find once you're in a certain environment, the percentage of black females you'll probably meet will be quite low. And then the ones that you actually do meet, they're probably not even interested in black guys. You know, they're probably interested in white guys, or the way they act is probably totally different. So, you know, there's so many different factors to it. So I think, you know, that's something that needs to be explored as well.
Okay, so you got any other comments or anything before we finish there?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, personally myself, you know, I funk with whoever I can funk with, whoever's real, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, a lot of black people sit around and they complain that we're not in a certain position, and they complain that we haven't got X or Y or Z. And then when there's brothers that are coming up and doing something, you know, where do we see that support for it, you know what I mean? Now, ultimately, you know, not to say you're doing something just holistically for that, but it would be nice to see that support and receive that support from the people that you're going out there fighting tooth and nail for, representing for. You're out in the community, you're accessible to them, you're making things happen, you're opening doors. I mean, you know, we run a media channel, BDTV, and some of the stuff we're working on is really on point, you know, similar to even some of the stuff you guys are doing on point. But, you know, the amount of people that come across in the streets and they say, okay, well, you know, I'm trying to break into the music business, I'm gonna do a P110 video or something, you know, I'm gonna blow these fools up. But what these dudes actually giving back to our community, you know what I mean? So people are quick to run off and do those things. A, what are these people doing to put anything back in our community? And lest we forget that within this scene, just like when we talk about football, basketball and stuff like that, and we could be guessing those things, they're guessing our things, so they should be acting accordingly in that as well. So I'd say that.
Thanks.